Mr. President, you have a quorum.
Okay, good morning. It is 8:50 and I will call this board meeting of the City of San Angelo Development Corporation to order. Guy, do I need to read from the top of this? Notice is hereby given in accordance all the way through?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. Notice is hereby given in accordance with an order of the Office of the Governor issued March 16th to 2020 of a regular meeting of the City of San Angelo Development Corporation scheduled for May 27th, 2020 at 8:30. The council chambers at the McNeese Convention Center, South Meeting Room, 501 Rio Concho Drive, San Angelo, Texas, will not be open to the public. COSADC members and staff will attend virtually in order to advance the public health goal of limiting face-to-face meetings, also called social distancing, to slow the spread of coronavirus, COVID-19. There will be no public access to the regular meeting location. A public free of charge audio video broadcast of the meeting will be available on the city's YouTube channel, and the link is listed there. The meeting agenda and the agenda packet are posted online and again, there is a link. Members of the public who wish to submit public comment on agenda items must send their written comments via email to nora.navarez@cosadtx.us by noon, May 26, 2020. The subject must be in the following format: public comment, item number description, May 27, 2020. All emails must include your name and address. Please note all public comment emails relevant to posted agenda items received by the deadline will be published as part of the agenda packet prior to the meeting and therefore public record. Call 325-653-7197 or 325-650-6456 for staff assistance. A recording of the meeting will be available to the public in accordance with the Open Meetings Act upon written request. And I have already called the meeting to order. I would now like to open this in prayer, if y'all would please join me. Heavenly Father, thank you for this time that we get to come together and look at and study the economic benefits of our great city. Father, we would ask that you look over us in this troubling time and just continue to help guide us through it. Father, thank you for the recent rain for our area. So important. In Christ's name we pray, amen.
Amen.
All right, I will now be moving on to public comment. Nora, did we have any public comment come in?
No, sir, we did not receive anything.
Okay. Does anyone have anything at this time? Okay, we will move on to 4, consent agenda. Consider approving the April 22nd, 2020 meeting minutes. Consider approving the necessary corporation disbursements. Consider approving the April 2020 financial statement. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
That was Dr. Cummings.
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Mr. Coles also include item D on there, items A through D. I don't think you read item D, but second with that amendment.
Thank you, Bill. Item D was on page 2. Consider a motion resolution authorizing the COSADC board president to negotiate and execute. No, that's not. Yeah, that's part of the consent. Negotiate and execute an agreement with Intertel Services, Inc. for mutual termination of the economic development and performance agreement with Intertel that includes mutual releases. Thank you for pointing that out. Item D was part of the consent agenda. And Bill, you did second that?
I seconded, yes, sir.
Okay. Any other discussions? I'll do the same thing I did last time. I'm just going to call for the vote individually. Ed? Max?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Dr. Cummings?
Aye.
Garland, is that a yes?
Maybe if he could raise his hand, if he can hear us.
Garland, if you can hear me, raise your hand for yes.
Garland is muted, it looks like.
Okay. he raised
Okay,
his hand.
we got him. He raised his hand. Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, none. All right, we can move on from the consent agenda. Move on to the regular agenda. Consider a resolution of the City of San Angelo Development Corporation Board of Directors authorizing the use of sales and use tax funds in the amount not to exceed $400,000 to provide an economic development incentive to WMC Liquidation Co., DBA Bryan Wendland Corporation, DBA Wendland Tank Corp., and formerly DBA Wendland Manufacturing Corp. for a business retention and expansion program, project related to business enterprises that create or retain primary jobs as authorized for a Type B corporation under Local Government Code, Chapter 505, Subchapter D. Presentation made by Ms. Shannon Scott.
Thank you, President Coles. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll start off by giving a little background of the company for Wendland Tank. So they specialize in the manufacturing and fabrication of steel tanks and pressure vessels for the water, wastewater, and chemical industries, as well as aroma tanks for the natural gas industry and light gauge tanks for the oil markets. So their expansion will include a new building and infrastructure improvements at their location, which is located at 601 West 11th Street, and that is in single member District 4, which is Council Member Lucy Gonzalez's district. So currently they have 20 full-time employees. They do anticipate hiring 5 additional employees within the next 3 years, with those employees having an average salary of $43,000. So with the new facility, as well as equipment, machinery, and infrastructure improvements, they anticipate expending up to $2 million in capital investment. So the incentives that we're proposing today is going to be a $400,000 capital investment grant once the $2 million has been expended for the new facility, equipment, machinery, and infrastructure improvements. And in conjunction with the capital investment and grant, we're asking that they retain their 20 current employees. So the total incentive package that we're proposing today is $400,000. God, excuse me, God, I think we have a couple more. Okay. So of course, with every project that we bring to the board, we do run an economic impact analysis, again, to gauge our return on investment. And in this particular case, we're anticipating 10.4 million in annual economic output, as well as 4.5 million in gross annual product annually. We also have Russell Pale, who is the company's engineer. He is also on the call with us today, as well as Wendell Hirschfeld, who is the president of Wendland. Here is the exhibit that Russell has proposed for certain improvements, mainly the infrastructure improvements to include the construction of a concrete road from Bryant Street, 11th Street up to the facility itself, as well as certain sewer and water infrastructure improvements. So with that said, I would be happy to answer any questions. I'm sure Russell and Wendell as well would be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? What kind of time frame are we looking at?
Russell and Wendell, do y'all have an answer for that? I know that some of this construction has been expedited kind of with the lull as far as the COVID-19 crisis, but as far as a timeline, I would divert that question to Russell or Wendell.
Todd, are you asking for a timeline on construction of the roadway or the construction on the property, or both? I can answer the question on as far as the roadway or the infrastructure improvements. That would it would, we're estimating it to be about a 6 to 8 month project, just based on the size of it. I'll just give you kind of a brief rundown. The existing roadway is about a 12 to 15 foot roadway, if you can even classify it as a roadway. I mean, it's in very bad condition. And the new roadway would be a concrete road, 36 foot wide with a 50-foot right of way. And we would just be cleaning up the right of way with this project. And that's primarily what would take the most time, is to construct the concrete roadway through there and making the required improvements. And I can go into that in more detail if you like, but Wendell's going to be able to give you a better timeline on the building construction, just to answer your question.
Okay.
Wendell, how long will it take to build the building? Do you know?
Window may
Is
be
he-
muted.
Is he muted?
Wendell, you're on mute. If you would unmute yourself. There you go.
Oh. We still can't hear you, Wendell.
Let me see if I can unmute him. Okay, he's unmuted now. Wendell, you're unmuted, I think.
Still can't hear you though.
Yeah, Wendell, we still can't hear you. You may not have your microphone turned up.
If you look on the bottom left corner of your computer screen,
There's an up arrow next to your mute at the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. Click on that and see if you have your microphone turned up.
How about now?
Okay, now we can hear you.
perfect.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to present on this. We've prepared the site, and we are ready to pour the foundation, hopefully beginning this week. And we have all the components for the structure. It's in our yard, so we'll be ready to erect the structure as soon as our foundation is ready. And we anticipate that we will have the plant completed fourth quarter of this year, and hopefully operational before the end of the year, before the end of this year, 2020.
Fantastic.
Mhm.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Anybody else? All right, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second,
Okay, who was the first one?
Yes.
Ed.
Oh, Ed,
Ed, okay. And who seconded?
I believe Bill did.
Bill? Okay, any other discussion? All right, all in favor say aye. Ed,
Aye.
Max,
Aye.
Bill,
aye.
Dr. Cummings,
Aye.
Garland? Just raise your hand if you say aye. All right. Any opposed? Nobody on here? All right, motion passes. Thank you very much, Mr. Hirschfeld.
Thank you. Really
Russell.
appreciate it.
Yes, thanks,
Thank you.
Todd. You'll have a great day.
Mr. Coles, did you vote aye?
Yes.
Thank you.
Do I just exit now?
You
You
can.
may, or you may stay on.
Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate it.
You bet.
Thanks, Wendell. Thanks, Russell.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right, moving on. Consider nominating and approving 2 members of the COSADC Board of Directors to serve on the Industrial Park Review Committee in accordance with the Declaration of Covenants, Conditions, and Restrictions, reported as volume 941, pages 48 through 52. Records of Real Property, Tom Green County, Texas. Presentation by Mr. Bob Schneeman.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. As Mr. President mentioned, the review committee is required by our covenants, conditions, and restrictions at the industrial park for the first phase of the project. And that committee is made up of 2 COSADC board members, 1 representative of the city of San Angelo, 1 representative of Chamber of Commerce, and 1 representative from San Angelo Industries. Currently we have no board members on the committee, so we need to nominate 2 members. If you flip to the next slide, please, Guy. Basically, the duties of the committee are to review proposed construction plans, and these will be plans submitted by buyers of property at the industrial park that intend to develop. The committee has approval authority for the location of utilities, infrastructure, streets, and rail infrastructure, and also for the handling of storm runoff and clean industrial effluent. They also review building exterior finishes, which are the acceptable finishes are prescribed in the covenants, conditions, and restrictions, and I'll provide those to the board members. And they also review signage. So what we're asking is preferably for 2 volunteers to serve on the committee.
Okay. I move that we ask Director Carrasco and Director Puelo to serve on this board with their approval as well.
Your pen. I'm gonna shut this off.
I'll accept.
214A.
Was that an acceptance, Ed?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Here as well.
Max?
I do as well. Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone not want them on there?
With that, Director Coles, I would be happy to make that motion for Director Crosco and Director Puello on that committee.
All right, sounds good. Does anyone else have any questions or concerns?
I'll second that.
Sales
Okay.
line 701 and 702, salesman line 701 and 702.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. I say aye. Ed?
Aye.
Max?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Dr. Cummings?
Aye.
Mr. Freeze?
Aye.
All right. None opposed. It passes. Congratulations, guys. Thank you for serving.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to C, consider a resolution authorizing the use of sales and use tax funds of up to and not to exceed 250,000 in increments as authorized from time to time by the board, subject to city council approval for planning, engineering, and other professional services and construction and related services and materials for development of industrial transportation infrastructure and improvements suitable for industrial rail transportation service necessary to promote or develop new expanded business enterprises that create or retain primary jobs on the tract of land acquired by COSADC, being 180 acres, more or less, located adjacent to the south right-of-way of Farm to Market 2105, 1.5 miles west of Highway 277, and adjacent to the easterly boundary of an abandoned railroad right-of-way, a project authorized under Chapter 505 of the Texas Development Corporation Act. Presentation made by Mr. Schneeman.
Thank you. Guy, can we get the next slide? Thank you. As the board, I'm sure recalls, this is the the location of the 180 acres. It is sort of northwest of the existing city landfill. It lies between 50th Street and FM 2105 and is on the east side of the existing but now abandoned railroad right-of-way. That right-of-way still belongs to TxDOT, and it's still a usable right-of-way from the standpoint of rail. It's also about 1.5 miles west of Highway 277. Next slide, please. As the board, I'm sure, recalls also, we've done some preliminary design work out there. That's not to say that this is what it'll look like in its final form, but in conjunction with Roger Horton, our consultant from Shea Consulting, we did a preliminary layout. The intent of this item is to, first of all, comply with the requirements of section 501 and 505 of the municipal code that says that we have to, that the board is required to, in essence, establish a project before we move forward with expenditure of funds. We've also got to issue public notice of intent to expend any funds, and we can't expend those funds for 60 days after we publish that notice. Staff is recommending that we sort of get the process started in getting the notice published. We've identified $250,000 as a good starting amount, if you will, to be able to address issues as they arise. Each of these issues would come back to the board and city council for approval of individual expenditures. But staff is thinking that we really need to get the process started, and there's been a lot of activity. I'll let Guy go in a little bit into what has occurred thus far in the way of negotiations and what have you. But the intent of this is to be able to advance the project, move it forward as we identify individual needs up to this amount. And we anticipate this amount could go beyond the 250,000, but we felt that was a good point to start.
What I might add is the current activity that we have that is going on is we will be hosting a meeting tomorrow. One of the things we've been working towards and trying to get a handle on is what involvement that Texas Pacifico would like to have in this project, since they actually control the railroad. Texas Pacifico has come back formally and told us that they do not wish to be involved other than the transporting of the rail cars, that they don't want to be involved in the switching of those. So in the process, Mr. Horton and Mr. Looney have identified a potential operator for this project that actually operates a railroad. At the current time, he has expressed an interest in pursuing this project and partnering with us to develop the San Angelo Railport. The first agreements will have to come between Texas Pacifico and the potential operator in order to establish rates and determine what aspects each of them will play in this particular project. And then we will need to be entering into a development agreement with the operator in order to determine the exact layouts of our property, how that would be used and all of that. So it will be a process of negotiation that we will be bringing back at each step as we're able to proceed on this. The park actually will be developed a little bit at a time as customers have are identified and actually contracted. Michael Looney and Roger Horton did an exceptional job of identifying potential customers, which we've we'll turn over both to Texas Pacifico and to our operator in order for them to reach final agreements with that. We'd have to determine lease out of the property and things of that nature. So that's where we stand now, but we've made actually during this time some great progress in moving this project forward. And again, we'll be having that meeting actually tomorrow to determine everybody's roles and next step in the process.
Okay, so what is this $250,000 buying us right now? This is just money that they can come and use with council approval for planning, engineering, and professional services. I mean, what are we getting here?
Well, for example, in all probability, we will need a topographic survey of the property. Although I've identified a source for some topography that may or may not work. But that would be about a $7,000 contract. We would bring that back to the board for approval and then to city council. So we're not, in essence, we're not saying that we intend to spend this money on anything in particular right now. It's just as those items come up under the act, we would need to, as we identify each individual project or each individual task within the project, we would have to post 60 days notice and not expend those funds for 60 days, which would delay the project by about 2 months each time we identified something. This way, at least up to the $250,000, we can come to the board, go to city council, and be able to expend those funds with board and council approval without having to wait the 60 days. Up to the 250,000.
Okay. All right. Questions, concerns from the board?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
$250,000, Robert, you mentioned that it could exceed this. Do we know, or have we identified anything at this point that could make it go over that?
I'll give you an example, and this is not what we intend to do, but if we were to build the entire project, it could be, say, a $5 to $8 million project. We don't intend to do that. We intend to partner with, as Guy mentioned, with private entities. Hopefully they will bear the brunt of that, but this is intended to have some money available if we had to do things in advance of that, if you will, or it might even be used as an incentive. However, again, that individual expenditure would have to come back to the board and back to council for approval before we could move forward.
This particular item, just for clarification, is not to exceed $250,000. This is the initial seed money for the project. So if additional funding is required on down the line, we would come back for additional funding as well. But this, as Bob said, it helps us expedite the project so we don't have the 60-day waiting period every time we make a decision that we need to do something in terms of site preparation or go ahead with installation of track and that sort of thing.
All right. Any other questions, concerns? All right. Do I have a motion?
Move. This is Max.
Motion by Mr. Puelo. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Freeze. All in favor say aye. Ed.
Aye.
Max.
Aye.
Bill.
Aye.
Garland.
Aye.
Dr. Cummings.
Aye.
And I am a yay as well. None opposed, motion passes. Moving on to line item D. Consider a resolution authorizing the sale of approximately 5.544 acres of vacant land located at the southwest quadrant of the intersection of Gateway Drive and Venture Drive within the San Angelo Business and Industrial Park to Coda Investments, Inc. at a price of $25,000 per acre, authorizing the board president to negotiate and execute a real estate sales contract in a form approved by the city attorney and recommending ratification by city council. Presentation made by Mr. Bob Schneeman, and I will add that the Coda, that is not a spelling error. That is the company name is Coda.
Thank you for clarifying that, Mr. President.
Yeah.
This is a company that approached us several months ago. We began negotiations with them, answering questions and what have you. And they are a developer. Typically they're, and it is with this case, they are a build to lease developer. They have a specific user in mind for this property, not just in mind, but that they are building this specifically for a user. We're not, and please bear with me, board, we're not able to identify that user right now. I'll be happy to disclose it to board members and maybe in one of our news weekly updates or whatever. But they are offering $25,000 per acre. We can go to the next slide, Guy, if you don't mind. It's a little bigger depiction of it. Lot 3, as it's identified here, is the Coverlay property, and the property immediately west of the subject property is Warren Caterpillar. So you can see this would basically develop out the south side of Venture Drive. The company is very serious about this. They're looking for a 30-day closing if we can get it. And they are offering $25,000 an acre, which is our sales price on the property. Be happy to answer any questions.
This highway frontage.
No, this is internal to the park.
Okay, I'm sorry. I've got it now. And it was 25,000 per acre.
That's correct, sir.
Any other questions, concerns from the board?
That $25,000 per acre, is that about the going rate for this area?
Yes, sir. The last time we had, it's been about a year now since we've had an appraisal done. We're probably about due to have another one. I think the last one was done a year ago in June. But 25,000 is what we've been selling all the property for out there for 5 acres and above. If it's less than 5 acres, which this is not, then it would be 29,000 per acre. And as we move into phase 2, we'll have to look at the costs associated with developing that property, and I suspect the price will go up.
Okay. Ed, Max, y'all got anything to say? Y'all are on the board for the industrial park. I mean,
We're on the board already?
all right.
I think it's good. Yeah, I mean, it's what we've been selling them for over there. I think it's good. We want to definitely sell all those lots and fill that place up when we can.
Perfect. Do I have a motion?
Move for approval of that sale to Dakota Enterprises.
Thank you, Bill. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, say so. Ed,
Aye.
Max,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Garland,
All right,
Dr. Cummings.
Aye.
I am in favor as well. With none opposed, motion passes. Moving on to line item E. Consider a resolution authorizing the placement of approximately 100,000 cubic yards of fill material by Reese Albert Inc. on a tract of land acquired by COSADC, being 180 acres, more or less, located adjacent to the south right-of-way of Farm to Market 2105, 1.5 miles west of Highway 277 and adjacent to the easterly boundary of an abandoned railroad right-of-way, a project authorized under Chapter 505 of the Texas Development Corporation Act. Presentation by Mr. Schneeman.
Thank you. This is a kind of an odd request, I suppose. As the board knows from the discussion of item C, we are trying to move the project forward. And one of the things that we know for sure that we will need is fill material on the site. Reese Albert recently was awarded a contract by TxDOT to upgrade FM 2105, which is on our north boundary. And just to orient you, the north is to the left on this exhibit. The existing rail spur, if you will, or siding is about 4 to 5 feet higher than our site. And the transition from that elevation down to our the elevation of our property is going to take some fill. We anticipate it'll be more than 100,000 yards of fill material that's required. Reese Albert offered us this fill back several months ago. They have bid the project on FM 2105 with disposing the fill on our property in mind. The quality of this material is very good. It's going to be mainly road base and some seal coat material mixed in. Of course, there will be some native soil as well, but it's a high quality material suitable for fill for construction, particularly of rail bed and of road bed. As a matter of fact, I'm going to meet with, if this is approved, I'm going to meet with them this afternoon or later on this morning to discuss where we're going to place it. They have also offered not to just bring it in and dump it, if you will, but to place it, to prepare the surface and place it and do some level of compaction on it as well. So it's really, there's really a value to this, and it's not costing COSADC anything to receive this fill. It's to Albert's advantage to be able to not have to export this any distance. So it's to their advantage as well as ours. Happy to answer any questions.
Any other questions or concerns from the board? It seems like a heck of a good deal for us and them.
I truly believe it is. It's like I say, it's good material, and we know we're going to need it. We may not get it placed exactly where we need it, but it'll be much closer, and therefore save us a great deal of money, as opposed to having to import it and place it in the future.
Bill, do we have an engineering plan yet on, how this exactly needs to be, or we're just going to kind of guess where it's going to go and then fix it later?
We're going to generally raise the site. The first thing we're going to do is provide access road based around the perimeter of the site. We know we're going to need that. And also parallel to the existing rail spur, we know we're going to need to raise that area to some degree. So we'll utilize some of it in that area, but we do not have an actual engineered plan at this point.
Now, if they bring it in and grade it for us and compact it minimally, will it still be able to be moved if we change direction as to where they put it?
Yes, so it will be.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or concerns?
And this is just subject to them getting the approval of 2105. That hasn't been awarded yet?
It has been awarded.
Oh, it has been awarded. Okay.
Yeah, they just need someplace to take it. And we happen to be needing it right on 2105.
Correct, that's correct.
It
Just
works
to
out.
let you know, the value of this is, we estimate that if we had to buy this and have it transported ourselves, it would be around $1 million. And so this is quite a gift to COSADC.
How much are we saving them by not having to haul it off somewhere else?
I don't know the exact figure, but I suspect they would probably charge somewhere around that same $10 to maybe $14 a yard to remove it and export it. So TxDOT is probably I don't know this, but TxDOT is probably paying them some amount to do that. And we just happen to be closer than pretty much anybody else that needs the fill.
Okay. Sounds like a winner. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Ed, second by Mr. Dendel. All in favor, say aye. Ed,
Aye.
Max,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Mr. Freeze,
Aye.
Dr. Cummings.
Aye.
I'm also in favor. Motion passes. Moving on to line item F, consider resolution authorizing the use of sales and use tax funds for the purchase of additional water supply by the city of San Angelo under interlocal agreement with the cities of Midland and Abilene for an indefinite period subject to review on every 10th anniversary. Pursuant to ballot proposition adopted November 2nd, 2010, a project authorized for a type 4B development corporation under chapters 501 and 505 of the Texas Development Corporation Act. Presentation by Ms. Allison Struby.
Good morning, board. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you, Allison.
Okay, let me start sharing my screen. All right, good morning, board. Today I want to walk through the water supply agreement that was entered into on May 12th by the City Council with the cities of Midland and Abilene. This is a part of the West Texas Water Partnership that began back in 2010 for all three cities' combined efforts to search for long-term water supply. The agreement that was entered into provides three main parts of the agreement. One is for the purchase of the groundwater, one is for the wellfield development, and a third part that's permit licensing. And I'll kind of go through each one of these bullet points as we go through this presentation. The West Texas Water Partnership contracted with Fort Stockton Holdings. On May 12th, the city of Midland contracted for the full volume of the 28,400 acre feet that was up for purchase. And then subsequently, the city of Midland, Abilene, and San Angelo all ratified or approved an interlocal agreement, this ILA, that ultimately splits this total volume into the breakout that you see here, with Midland taking 15,000 acre feet annually, Abilene 8,400 acre feet, and San Angelo at 5,000 acre feet annually. This water is regulated by the Middle Pecos Groundwater Conservation District, and Fort Stockton Holdings does own a permit to export this water. This is a take or pay contract. with the price escalators or the tiered contract pricing that you'll see on the screen. Years 1 through 5 are 30.625 cents per 1,000 gallons. Years 6 through 10, that jumps up to 34.25 cents per 1,000. And then starting in year 11 is 55 cents. And through the term of the contract, it is increased annually by 0.5%. I can tell you that this negotiation to get down to the 0.5% saved us millions through the life of this contract. We were looking at a CPI index or what was proposed. And as you know, that those adjustments annually can be considerably higher than 0.5%. So we were able to negotiate down to this 0.5% adjustment. And as we move through the life of the contract, inflation will likely far exceed this 0.5%. So this water will get ultimately cheaper as we move through the years of this contract. This is a 50-year contract term with 2 options for extensions. They are 2 20-year options for extensions. So ultimately this water supply contract, if exercised, or if the extensions are exercised, could take the city out to 2110, which is hard to say and hard to imagine. The next part of that agreement is a well field development. Ultimately, this allows the cities to control the development. It provides surface access to Fort Stockton Holdings property to develop that well field. While there are wells on the property, they will have to, the cities will have to develop their own wells that meet TCEQ drinking water standards. And that allows for the pipeline collection system and all of those things that are required to get that water out of the ground. And it also provides the city to be in control of the design coordination of that well field. And then that third part of the agreement is the permit licensing. Really what this means is, as I talked about, the Middle Pecos has authorized or provided a permit to Fort Stockton Holdings for the production and transport of this water. What this allows us to do is allows the cities to step into the shoes of Fort Stockton Holdings and operate that permit. As I talked about, the partnership has been around since 2010, and the goals were to find affordable, reliable, sufficient quantity for all 3 cities, and a good quality water to provide for the long the generations to come for all 3 cities. With the Fort Stockton Holdings agreement that was entered into, this provides that long-term security. It diversifies our water supply portfolio. It's an affordable water supply for all 3 cities. And then it also becomes that regional asset that each of these cities are in need of to get us through droughts and those type of things. So if anyone has any questions about that, I'll be happy to address those.
I have a few questions.
Okay.
Now this is from the Williams family.
Yes, sir.
They were involved in quite a bit of lengthy lawsuits over all this water. Is all of that settled? And
the settlement agreement provided the Williams family with this permit to export. They do have a permit for a larger volume than the 28,400. Let me go back to that. Than the 28,400. But the settlement agreement and the permit to export was granted by the Groundwater District to export approximately half of that, which is the 28,400 acre feet. So they still have production permits that exceed this volume, but they are not allowed to be exported.
okay. The take or pay, that means we're going to pay for 5,000 acre feet every year, whether we take 1 gallon or 5,000. Is that correct?
That is correct. I will say that this is the same with almost every single one of our water contracts that is with Ivy Water. One of the prime reasons we use Ivy as our supply is, one is the quality is good, but it is a take or pay contract with CRMWD. So matter if we take 1 gallon or the 4 billion gallons that we take annually from Ivy, we pay for it no matter what.
And just logistically speaking, we go out to this field and we build a well. We pump the water out. How does it get here? Is there a pipeline in place?
There is not a pipeline off the ranch or off the property to any 3 city. The conceptual delivery and production of that groundwater has been reviewed by our consultants and presented to all 3 cities. Final concepts of that have not been finalized because the goal is to get the water contracted first. But capital infrastructure that is needed to develop the well field and bring a pipeline in is approximately $300 million, but that is for the full 28,400 acre feet. And so it would be split proportionately through the 3 cities per their volume.
Okay. This may be a dumb question. Where are we going to put it? What do we do with it?
Once it gets into a pipeline, or what?
Once it gets here, I mean, 5,000 acre feet. What do we do with it when it gets here?
I'm not quite sure how to answer that question. This water would be used ultimately as San Angelo grows and population increases and those type of things. This volume is needed at some point in the future. So it would be brought in and treated just as we do Ivy, Concho River water, Lake Nasworthy, Twin Buttes, Hickory. All of those that go through a treatment process and then distributed out to our customers.
Okay, so just as we need it, it's going to be piped in.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions, concerns from the board?
I would say this, Max, when, if we were to move forward with this, when do we think we would have access to this water?
Well, by contract, we have access today. The projections, as long as we don't have another severe drought in this time frame I'm about to give, we're looking at the 2035 time period to develop the well field and bring that water into the 3 cities systems.
So we're 15 years from being able to take advantage of it. Is that right?
I wouldn't say being able to take advantage of it, but that's most likely when the needs will drive the production of this permit or the production of the well field. If we have another 2011, 2012, that timeline could be expedited, but it is available to us today. But based on the needs that all 3 cities and analysis performed, that's the timeline that would most likely drive the production of this project.
Okay. Any other questions, concerns?
But I guess my question is, the infrastructure will be laid out prior to the 15 years, or it won't start for 15 years?
No,
the infrastructure part.
Okay, we will probably start the design. It will take a long time to obtain right-of-way acquisitions, easements, all of those type of things. So those things will begin pretty soon, so that we have all the plan or everything in place for when we need to start doing construction projects. We've got all the right-of-way and pipeline alignment and all those type of things in place, ready to go.
Anybody else? What was the Does anyone else have any questions or concerns about this? Okay, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Who's that?
Ed,
Ed? Do I have a second?
I'll second. It'll certainly improve the viability of the nature of the city for years to come.
Okay. I had Ed with the motion. I had Bill with the second. Any other concerns or questions? I actually have one more. Is Dan here?
He's muted right now. Let me.
I do see his name on the screen.
I was saying Dan is muted, but I was muted too, so you couldn't hear me.
Okay.
Dan needs to unmute.
Dan, can you unmute? I have a question for you.
Dan, in the lower left corner of your screen, Dan. You get.
Can you hear me, Dan?
I show that he's unmuted right now.
Yeah.
And Mr. Dane, you may have a say in this as well. I don't know. I want to know for a 100% fact that everything that has happened with this project to date has been legally gone about to get to us today. I want it on the record that council's already approved doing this. I want to make sure that if we're going to do this, that it's not going to come back later and something was not done correctly or something was not done properly. And I just want assurance that what we're going to approve today, if we approve it, is 100% how this process was supposed to happen.
Dan?
I don't know if Dan is able to weigh in on this or not, but let me say this from the standpoint of the City of San Angelo Development Corporation. And the questions we've asked, we ran this through our legal staff, also our financial staff, to make sure that all the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted in regard to the legal procedures to do this. So what this resolution today does is the COSADC's approval of it, because we do have the ability to approve any type of funding. There's also a memorandum of understanding that has been prepared that will be executed between the city and COSADC. So I am personally convinced that everything has been done in a legal manner according to the feedback. Whenever we submit items for an agenda, it goes through a very detailed approval process that it involves everyone that has an opportunity to look at the documents, our legal staff, everyone involved in this, the financial staff's involved. And I'm convinced that what we're doing is totally legal.
I'll say in addition to that, as the city council went through the process, we utilized both internal and external legal advice. And as far as I know, and we have complied with all of that advice and executed those activities, whether they were council votes or discussions or actual agreements. They've all been executed in accordance with legal guidance. Today's proposed actions were prepared by Dan, I believe, weren't they, Guy?
Yes, sir.
And
I'm
so
sure
what you're voting on today is based on Dan's work. And so I think that's a reliable work to vote on. And so as far as we know, everything has been completed exactly as advised by our legal advisors. And we have no questions or concerns about that at this point. In addition to that, paying for this, the city council has contracted for the water and will make payment. And I think these agreements, to simplify, would be to request reimbursement of those expenses in accordance with the ballot, which was approved some years ago. And so to the extent that we have knowledge and can provide that assurance, we can assure you that this is legal, has been done properly, and is worthy of an upvote if you think that you support the motion.
And Michael, I appreciate that. But whenever you say everything has been gone through your legal advisors and everything's how it was supposed to be done, is that not after the fact that council already approved it?
No.
I mean, did y'all get legal counsel? Did y'all get legal counsel before the city council last month voted this in place? That COSADC would fund it without the knowledge of it? Or did you get legal counsel after it was approved, then say, okay, wait a minute, now we've got to try to figure out how to get. I just want to be absolutely clear on all of this.
Well, you're talking about the funding between COSADC and the city. The city council's focus was on the purchase of water. And so to the extent that we can provide that assurance, the city council has complied with all legal advice as far as the purchase of water. And the city council's prepared to, the city is on the hook for paying for that water. This mechanism that we're discussing today is an agreement between COSADC, a proposed agreement between COSADC and the city for utilization of restricted monies for future water supply. And so I think the city council did move forward with this purchase with the idea that this money could be available for use, so that they didn't have to impact either other expenditures or the rates. And so the consideration of this money is a perfectly legal option for the city council. There's no legal question that the city council could request this money for this project.
Okay. Did Dan ever get on?
Don't show
Having
him.
typical technical difficulties. He can hear us, but he can't respond.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns from the board? Okay, I have a motion to approve and a second. I'll call for the vote. Ed?
Aye.
Max?
Aye.
Dr. Cummings?
Aye.
Garland?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
I will also vote in favor of this. Motion carries. Moving on to Allison, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll move on to closed session, executive session under the provision of Government Code Title V, Open Government Ethics, Subtitle A, Open Government Chapter 551, Open Meetings, Subchapter D. Exceptions to requirement that meetings be under the following sections: follow-up of administrative issues, consider impossible actions of items discussed in closed session if needed, announcements and consideration of future agenda items. Do we have anything for closed session?
No, sir, there are no
No,
closed
sir.
session items.
We have nothing. I will move for adjournment. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Dr. Cummings, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Freeze. All in favor say aye. Ed,
Aye.
Max, Bill, Mr. Freeze, Dr. Cummings.
Aye.
All right, rock and roll. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.